Well, joining us live to discuss the incessant shootings in the United States is Global Affairs Analyst Kunle Falowo and Ejike Opa. Glad to have you join us on the wall now, gentlemen.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Right. Let's start with you, Mr. Kunle Falowo. Sad one, you will agree with me, and this form of violence we know could have rocked any community, but Maine, which is a really quiet and serene neighborhood where they really do not have high incidences of homicides. It's a bit unexpected. Talk to us about the likely possibility of such an act happening in Maine.
This is definitely an unfortunate incident. Anywhere that a gun-related violence is occurring, anywhere in the United States, it's tragic, it's unfortunate, and our heart goes out to the families of those that are affected. Nonetheless, it's important to state that Second Amendment is one of the things that we've been talking about for a long time, and you know, Congress generally needs to do a lot better as far as enacting laws to see how we could curtail this this epidemic that's been going on in the United States for a long time. I also wanted to remind our listeners, viewers across the world, that Maine has the least restrictive gun laws in the state. And it's unfortunate because we're starting to see that even state laws have kind of enabled this to happen for a long time. And now we're seeing that that needs to be relooked, and we need to make strict gun control laws that will help and because we have to think about it this way. At 18, you could go into a gun store literally and purchase a firearm. And in Maine, particularly, it's not mandated to go through a background check to acquire a firearm. This is unfortunate. If we could, like I said this before, if we could have we can if we cannot allow an 18-year-old to purchase liquor at the liquor store, why should we allow 18-year-olds to purchase firearms? And again, it just goes along with to tell you that there's a lot of work for our lawmakers to do in regards to gun laws in America.
All right, let's hear from Mr. Ejike. Mr. Ejike, you are in Texas, where we have high incidences of gun violence. Let's quickly look at the President Joe Biden's statement on this attack, where he sympathized with the victims and also spoke about the executive order and also the progress made on gun safety in the United States. This brings me to the issue of how effective gun laws are really in the United States.
Well, when things like this happen, we're always going to have a reaction to it. Nobody sees this coming, whether the person is 18 years old or 21 years or older. You never know what's going on in the mind of somebody who owns gun. Gun don't kill people. People use gun to kill people. No gun on it itself is going to turn around and start killing people. Somebody's got to use that equipment and do what they do. The challenge with this sort of something is an amendment. It's not a state thing. States can have regulations, they can have rules, but sometimes people sue and have those things overturned because it's a federal case. It's not a Republican issue because Democrats own guns too. If you go to minority communities, they all have guns. So we got to come to a point where we as Americans, I think it's very unfortunate when presidents come up and say, oh, is this side or is that side? It is an American epidemic, it's an American challenge, and we have to get to a point where we said, hey, when you're using this gun, be very careful. A lot of people use it. There's reason to own a gun in America. But then when you look at issues of mental illness, this gentleman who did what he did, has been reported to have mental illness. And that is one of the big underlying factors that sometimes people don't talk about. I'm licensed to carry gun in Texas. I've never used it, but if you come into my home, and try to break in, you better believe I'm gonna open fire on you. So are so many other Americans. So it's the Second Amendment, and it is harder to deal with something that is granted constitutionally. If we're going to have a national gun restrictive order, we have to either amend the Second Amendment, and it takes a lot of political will and processes to get it done. So we're going to have to look at people who have mental illnesses or people who are buying guns. And when they buy it, you never know what they're going to do with it. It's just one of those things that you just can never. It's happened from time, and they always say, "Oh, this is going to be the last time. We're just going to make more rules and more regulations," and then it happens. So I don't know. I wish I have an answer, because innocent people getting killed by people, they don't know, just because the people are mad or for some reason. It's very unfortunate.
Well, staying with you, Mr. Ejike, in the press briefing, like you mentioned, on a mental health issue, a couple of reporters also asked how a person dealing with mental health issues had access to wielding a gun, planning an attack, and also carrying it out, and also getting the resources he used in carrying out this attack. This makes a lot of sense when we talk about mental health issues in the United States. But how true really is this in addressing issues of gun violence?
Well, mental illness, like, driver's license, people check off that, their organ donor. If anything happens, you can harvest their organ. So in the case of, IDs, government issued, we don't have it. We don't have where we check off, somebody has a mental illness, because it's a health issues, it's a private issue, private health issues that prohibit that from happening. So it is very difficult. It's after the fact, and then you can't just commit somebody to a mental institution because a family member said they have to have done something outrageous or tragic like this one before you can commit them. But then that's after the fact. This guy knows that if he had been caught, then he would have ended up, life sentence or some kind of stuff. So he killed himself. A lot of them end up that way, or police. There will be a police law enforcement shootout with the shooter, and then they die. So when we get to where we are acknowledging mental illness and making it public, that somebody who's going to go buy a gun has to submit, a mental assessment, stability report, then maybe we can get to where we're beginning to restrict certain people from, having access to gun. But then sometimes they can have it. They can have it by buying it, or they can have it because a family members of theirs owns the gun. I mean, we've got kids who are not even 18 years old, getting access to their parents' gun and going to school and shooting people up. So it's a very national challenging thing. If you're in America, you're in traffic, somebody can pull a gun from the other car and fire you. Just because you're looking at them. They will say, "Why are you looking at me?" So you never know what's going to trigger people to be very wicked, taking lives.
All right, so I'm tossing this question back to you, Kunle Fallowo, picking it up from where Mr. Ejike stopped. How should these issues be addressed, the issues of gun violence in the United States? How should we address this holistically, to reduce the incidences of mortality in the state?
It's very simple and also very complicated. The reason I'm saying that is because we need stricter gun laws to help mitigate this crisis. This is a very polarizing issue amongst different politicians and Americans in general. It's as polarizing as it can get. People get heated up over gun laws and gun rights, and it's a given. We can't talk about Second Amendment without talking about having the rights to possess and keep a firearm. But having said that, having to do a background check before anyone is eligible to acquire a firearm is important. It's just a common sense law. And also, when we talk about this issue at the Congress level, it's a very divisive issue. But when we go to individual states, which by the way they have the political will and they're able to make laws that individually, well, collectively governs their state. So I would refer back to state laws and state legislators to come up with. It doesn't matter if they're Republicans or Democrats or Independents, come up with laws that will safeguard the lives of Americans across the board. Because when you're shooting at somebody and just having the thought at the back of your mind that there's no guarantee that when you send your kids to school, um, what are the chances of them coming back home at the end of the day? Because you don't know who is mentally unstable, always having a bad day, who's gonna come up with a firearm and shoot up people, and this is a lingering fear. And just like we've been talking about, this happened in a public setting, in a bowling alley where kids and grown-ups and adult wear. So um, this is very unfortunate, and then again, we just have to refer and defer to politicians, and of course, mental health state. For an individual, it's important that we look into that, and like I said, state legislature have to just step up and do the right thing for the American people.
Global Affairs Analyst Kunle Falowo and Ejike Opa, thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining us on The World Now.
Well, thank you for having me.